inside Superbooth. Yes, look at this. So we're with Peter from Barstool Instruments. How are you? Hey. So I've been playing around with this. So much fun. But you're from New York.
I am. Yep.
And you relocated to the Czech Republic.
I did. Yeah. I love what these guys are doing, so I joined the team.
It's crazy. We were just talking off camera about being in Berlin, and Michael at Tigelaar said that in his apartment building, every person on every floor is making music.
Yeah. Well, I moved from New York, where everyone is also making music, but they're like fighting to survive, just struggling. Right. So, and then I came to Europe and was like, I don't need to live in New York.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's really inspiring.
The energy here at Superbooth is incredible.
Well, the energy here at Superbooth is remarkable because all of these people are competitors and no one acts like it.
Yeah.
You know, we're all like learning from each other. It's really unprecedented, I think.
I think it's just that great level of nerdiness that musicians and builders have. They're like, whoa, how did you do that? I want to know. Show me, I'll show you.
Yeah. It's this shared enthusiasm, passion, which is also linked to this like intense curiosity that like drives so much of the energy. It's really cool.
And then being in Berlin, where we all know like electronic music just blossomed.
Right.
And we've just been at Hansa for 3 days, where of course Bowie did Low, Lodger and Heroes, and Iggy did Lost for Life, and Depeche Mode recorded that. So it's like, and they all came there because they wanted the energy of Berlin in the 70s.
It's saturated. It's totally saturated in a good way. Not oversaturated.
Marvelously. So tell us a little bit about what Barstool does.
I mean, we're making musical instruments for curious experimental musicians. So we do a lot with Eurorack, a lot with modular synthesizers, because it's a real open-ended approach to making music, where it can have very like musical, or let's say musical with a capital M applications, but then you've got all of the repatchability to really dive in. So it's a lot about like science fair meets music festival kind of, getting the audiences screaming and just going in and trying experiments and diving deeper. So we make a lot of tools for that, for people to make, real classic music, but a lot of focus on just giving. So like I'm one of the engineers there, and I get free reign to really investigate bizarre ideas. And that's why a big part of the reason I joined Barstool is because they give me that freedom to go where I'm inspired to go as an artist. Because I have an arts background with some engineering and then doing this now. So this stuff is all very personal. I'm not trying to meet the needs of a market. I'm trying to find a voice for something.
See, for me, dance music, when entirely in the box, just becomes really sterile.
Yeah.
And what I love about this like to me connects my world of guitars and basses and drums and stuff together with dance music in a really unique way. Because this is tactile instruments that you can mess with, you can play with, you can create sounds with. It goes with that same brain. Well,
and it's so like dance music I find gets really sterile, but it's not sterile if you're in a nightclub at 3 a.m.
Sure.
So it's the context, it's largely contextual. And the context of this is super important. It's about physically being with the object. It's about the context of diving into it mentally or intellectually or whatever. And it's about this context of like meeting the makers and sharing ideas. And so we're fully immersed in that aspect. So a big part of Barstool is about community outreach, about creating scenes in our town, about empowering other artists, so inviting them to be a part of the group. And then we make these objects. So we do a lot of desktop stuff, a lot of things that experiment with different ideas. Like we have a theory like maybe taking a bunch of analog oscillators and feeding them into each other is cool. Yeah. Maybe that it's portable with batteries and a speaker. That's fun, maybe. Let's find out. And then we just try it. So it's very playful, but it's also, there's a lot of, I feel a real responsibility to make good instruments.
Well, basically, David and I walked past and we were like, I don't know what this is, but I want it.
That's a thing too. I mean,
it's just a speaker and I just love it. I mean, Plus, of course, it sounds awesome.
You make lustful objects. Not lustful, but lustable or lustworthy objects, whatever the word is. But you want to make things too that these are objects, these are sculptures. And I love looking at it that way.
I mean, I love the humanity of everything about this, because when you think about the world of the DAW, which is amazing, we all work in DAWs, it's just sort of this idea that everything is just moving into, eventually, a little iPad-y instrument. We won't need reality, and we're going to live in a bubble. But it seems like all of this is blossoming.
Well, this is reactionary, partially to that. And what I like, this is one of the coolest parts, is there's room for all of it. We're not going to put Ableton out of business, and they're not going to put us out of business. And we can join forces and overlap, which is happening actively. And it all just appeals to different needs. No one format is saying, this is the best one, this is it. We're all just saying, hey, what about this? Let's experiment with this. But beside that, the DAW, I find, is very functional. Sure. While this is something else entirely. This is something that can look good on your bookshelf and never be turned on. And that's kind of okay. We like to think that the people who use this are making music. But I'm distancing myself from that necessity. I think that it can just be a part of your environment. I like, also like the home organ. That was like instrument as furniture. I think that's super cool. I love the idea of furniture instruments. And I think these are going to move in that direction. So there's just so many sides to this that are energizing and like worth paying attention to, I think.
Amazing. Well, thank you ever so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Hi, everybody. Okay. We are at IK Multimedia. Well, actually, you were a little bit hard to find. We saw the drum machine, and then we saw the logo last. And we were actually standing here going, we have to call them to find out where they are.
There they are. Yeah, fair enough. We know.
So Enrico is going to tell us all about...
Yeah, we are super proud because we are enlarging the family of the Uno line of instruments and with a drum machine. Everybody needs a drum machine. Everybody continues to need a monophonic synthesizer, analog, and also the drum machine is an analog drum machine, analog and PCM, because we wanted to give a little bit more flexibility on the portable.
Well, we've been talking about this a lot. This is kind of the theme of Superbooth, is the tactile stuff.
Exactly.
There's DAWs here, but even the DAWs here are integrating with like actual
with
real
external gear, because a lot of people that are here are just wanted to touch what they love to touch their instruments, and they love to touch and to make sounds that are not that common all the time. But
and it's great. You're a plug-in company, and you're making speakers, and you're making hardware. It's great. All right, so tell us all about this.
So,
Uno drum.
The Uno drum is, again, an analog and PCM drum machine with 12 elements and 11 voices, because, of course, hi-hats. You cannot play open and close it at the same time. With 6 analog voices. Great. We choose the kick 1, the kick 2, the snare, the 2 hi-hats, of course, and the clap to be analog. And the other ones are all PCM. All of the sounds are not forced. You're not forced to use only the analog sound if you want. You can also use, again, other PCM for enlarging the flexibility of the instrument. And also, I mean, you can select between 5 different sounds per element.
Great.
So all of the sounds, especially the analog one, can be edited in various modes. Like you have the usual level, the usual velocity. But then you can tune it, you can change the decay.
Nice.
Some of those have a snap control, and for the kick one, for example, we go a little bit beyond also.
But I love that. You see, you could loop a section in the song, and then just sit there and just tune that kick and that snare, just so it feels great.
Exactly.
Tactile with a knob, not a mouse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we wanted people to be able to record all their sounds easily. So we made the presets available for everyone. So it's the first, it's one of the not that much drum machine, analog drum machine that have presets, and you can save up to 100 keys presets.
Fantastic.
Which is so with
more than I'll ever need.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, 11 up to 100 patterns that can be stored, etc. And the sequencer is quite powerful. We all know the one that is equipped with in the Unisynth, have parameter recordings, etc. We enlarge it even more. So now it's 64 steps. It goes up to 64 steps. You have, again, parameter recording per step and real time. That means that, for example, in the Kick 2, there is a little bit more kind of 808-ish kind of stuff. Sure. You can actually tuning on the sequence. So, for example, I can decide that this step is going to be a little bit lower or a little bit upper. So, kind of create.
So you can make like the downbeat of the bar.
Exactly.
Exactly. Love it.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's why 2 kicks. So one that is a little bit more, again, 808-ish, a little bit more soft, and the other one that is more punchy and more aggressive, and a little bit more modern. On top of that, we added 2 analog master effects.
Oh, fantastic.
Effects, yeah. We added a compressor and a drive. That is going to affect all the entire machine. Then, of course, we wanted to give to all the people that, well, like me, like to play with all those machines.
This is my brain. This makes sense.
A couple of performance effects. We have a MIDI starter that kind of starts from creating some small loops in the sequence that you play. That is actually, and it's kind of a dynamic effect because it depends on when you activate it, on what you actually wrote on the pattern. It's going to change a little bit. Yeah. Creating these kind of DJ loops, then going from pitch modulation to complete madness at the end of the thing. Then of course rolls, because we need for the real time, for a real time performance, being able to have rolls or fills is something that is needed. Swing, we need a little bit of swing in our life. And of course a humanized feature that gives a little bit more of a human feel to the pattern that, you know, is still a drum machine. So give it a little bit more of vibe to it is always a plus. And then a random. Why not randomizing something?
Yeah, that also speaks to me.
Yeah, I mean.
So what's the random doing?
Well,
how random?
It's just well, random. It's just randomizing a pattern. So that means that imagine a live situation that you're there, you're just creating maybe a.
Can we play a pattern and randomize it?
Yeah.
Let's see what it does.
For example,
that's exciting.
Let's clear up a little bit some of the stuff.
Yeah.
And having only our kickers there. If I start randomizing the hi-hat, you start having something to start working with it. Then you start, I don't know, maybe start adjusting a little bit to fit a little bit more your style, etc. But then you might add something else to it, and then you can again start modify a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Recording it a little bit, and just start having fun and making out some of the ideas. Again, a little bit of swing.
Yeah.
Always needed. A little bit of humanize on it. And then we can start with the rolls. They're always just tapping with a finger. I mean,
that's so good.
Yeah. And again, all those rolls, all the stuff that you just
really cool.
Go touch, see what happened. So you're not gonna only give input to the machine, but it's also the machine kind of giving you a little bit of input. It talks with it plays with you. Right. That is the point. That is the point. Of course, there's also the usual tools that we need.
Right.
For example, the copy paste. So since you can deprogram it again because there's step per step parameter recording.
Right.
A copy paste feature or a clear feature is always needed. Also, there are some people that are more into MPC style of playing.
That's probably me, to be honest. Yeah.
For example, I'm the opposite. I'm the kind of guy that just the kind of a program. So there's a select feature that allows you to just select without having the.
So you like the old kind of 808 style where it's like dots, lights.
Yeah. I'm a little bit like that because I'm not really good with it. I prefer my guitar.
I'm a guitar player too, so I get it. Yeah.
Okay.
I get it.
Then of course, some of the features like the selectors allows you to do some really weird stuff. Like for example, if I have this groove going on, I can at a certain point just modify all the elements at once. Just to create again some variation on it and continue to play all around. Of course, we have a mute feature because, we need to create tension. We need to go to that drop.
Right.
So, if I, for example, start with that.
How long you had this to play with?
Well, I mean, we started the development some times ago, and in fact, I can actually talk while doing it. It's quite easy. Yeah.
You play this like a violin.
Yeah.
This is great.
But it's just because as the product manager of the product, I wanted to be sure that what the user are gonna get is what I imagine the product.
It's great.
Should be. We know that IK Multimedia is known for portable interfaces, so mobile musicians, etc., etc. So we are all about being capable of portability and ease of use.
Yep.
So this piece of gear that is analog again and PCM, it just weighs 400 grams. It runs on battery, so 4 AA batteries.
It's less than a cup of coffee.
Yeah. You can take it with you in the bag whenever you want. And again, the standard connection, so audio in, audio out, MIDI in and out, and USB for both power and MIDI. A nice thing is that with the Uno synthesis companion, and also with whatever you wanted to put in the audio in, the compressor is going to affect the audio in. So in the end of the chain, if you put the drum at the end of the chain, you're going to kind of glue up a little bit the entire thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's very cool.
Yeah,
thank you very much, Enrico. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So we're with Stefan at E.S.L. How are you?
Hi. Well, very well.
Good. I think we're not going to do so much talking as we're going to do music making. Okay. So I want to. We just had a little listen, and it's incredible. So.
Thanks. Okay, I will try to show. This is the same drum loop in 3 different spots, and we can obtain something like. Then we can compress.
Oh, that's great.
Without compression.
Love that.
We can also expand.
Oh yeah.
Compression, expansion. You see how it sucks away and then without any external input we can make a bass line with a simple cable loop that sounds like that. Then we can move this one with the drum loop, which is here, and drive the envelope gate. So we can obtain something like this, which is an automatic bass line made above on your drum loop, because it's made by your drum loop. See? So there is 2 different emphasis attitude. I like to call them the screaming lady and the dying pig. The screaming lady is here. I will show you. The scribbilate is very classic in the beginning and then become so hysterical.
I love that.
And then there is the Dying Pig, which is my invention. It's more stable but more distorted. It's less noisy, less pure crank. You see, you can mix them. You can also use it without so much power, so maybe with something less.
Oh, I love that.
This is a pure square wave from this signal generator, so there is no fake. The signal generator is something simple, and then all you hear is made by modification. I go further or? You can make also something like bass drum in some way. This is quite okay.
Oh yeah.
The extreme expansion on the last stage,
Yeah.
which can gain so much.
It's a movie soundtrack.
I want to show one thing.
Ooh.
See, it's quite turning off. This is a feedback problem, okay? So,
Amazing.
Thanks.
Bravo.
Thanks, man.
Bravo. That was amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah, we've seen lots of people do like little demos and stuff, but honestly, the way that you just, because it's your product and you know it so well,
Thanks.
it's like, we've seen people who are like, maybe composers that have been asked to demo other products, but that's, You gave us like 50 different whole sounds there. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That's my life.
Yeah, I love it.
I need it because if not, I'm dying in some way. So,
beautiful. Well, thank you, Stefan. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, E.S.L. So, we're at Bitwig. How are you, Dave?
Good. How are you, Warren?
I'm good. So, I wanted to talk to you because, well, first of all, I remember like a year ago, I did a blog on like top 10, DAWs, which was sort of voted on by a bunch of people.
Sure.
And then loads of people were like, you forgot about Bitwig. And then I started asking people, and they wanted me to find out more about Bitwig. So here we are.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I want to know all about it. I know nada, nothing, nicked, zero. So tell me.
Well, we can start from scratch. It's basically a modern DAW, meaning that things are working in a clip-based orientation. But that means you can work in a linear fashion like you would to produce a song in a regular time that advances, or you can have the free triggering clip launcher view. One difference with ours is that they live side by side.
Right.
So you can take clips from one to the other as you need to directly. Because a lot of people, it's not just performance anymore for launching. I'm making a verse, a chorus, an intro. Like you're working with loop-based things, and then you move them in. So we do a lot of that. We speak a lot of more modern technologies natively, such as this is a touchscreen back here. We do touchscreen, full touchscreen support if the OS supports it. So that means Windows and Linux. Yes, we do Linux full version. We have a lot of these radial menus, we think of them as. So if I were to press and hold in this note grid area, I do get a bunch of options which are now saying, oh, do you want to draw a note? Okay, I can simply move my finger this way and it'll draw it from where I started. And now when I select, I've got all these different options. One's on an outer ring because you probably are using a different finger, or more likely your other hand, to say, I would like to change the start times of all of them, or the end times, or make a duplicate. So we've thought through it in a lot of different situations to exactly like you're saying, try to keep it out of view until you need it.
That's great. Really, really nice.
Well, but it's just another one of these technologies that was burgeoning, and we've got a small team, so we can turn things around pretty fast. So the first Microsoft services that came out, it's time to work on touchscreen. Now it's in here.
So tell us a little bit more about it. Obviously, that's an amazing technology. What else are you doing?
Well, just one thing we were talking about for a minute. So I've got this over here. If I did have, this is an instrument track. It has some kind of sound, in theory, sound producing. Someone disconnected it. Okay. So we just leave that alone for a minute. It's making sound. That's all I care about. Now, if I go ahead, I'll go to normal mode for a moment. If I were to drag this from place to place, there's a couple interesting things. First, like I said, you can go back and forth between the two launchers. But second, this idea of modularity that we're focusing on, to my mind, it starts even here. I mean, clips are just clips. So if I were to duplicate this and then say, well, I would like to bounce the second clip in place, now what happens is, it used to be a little keyboard icon, but now it's audio and keyboard. It's a hybrid track. You can have notes and audio living side by side because who cares? And then the only difference you end up working with is, okay, here's an audio processor. So if I press play on the first section of it, and I'll turn the volume down a little bit. It triggers the instrument for the first portion, but then it will directly only pass the audio through and trigger the effect for the second portion. It's just, we do a lot of these small workflow things. So you bounce one portion, but you can still change your sound completely and it affects everything similarly.
So effectively, it's going to speed up your workflow.
That's the goal.
That's speeds up your workflow. You're not sitting there going, create track, scroll down, audio, mono, stereo, selection, output.
Exactly.
You just go, this track now, I'm working, I'm in record, I'm writing MIDI, I'm writing audio, whatever it might be. Yeah, I like that. That's smart.
Well, thank you, I'll pass it along. The thing that we've added in version 3 that is our big focus right now is called the grid. It is a modular environment for sound design. Meaning, if I click here, I'm going to say polygrid, which is the instrument. FX grid would be for building audio effects. It looks simple enough.
Yeah.
It has a whole world inside of it.
Oh, wow.
So both of these devices have an entire, well, if I were to summarize the grid, it's basically two things. It's the library of modules that you can use and load into it, which is right now 147. If I didn't miss anything over lunch. But on top of that, there's a whole series of gestures and workflow to make things fast.
Right.
So I've loaded the default sound, which is infinitely simple, and if I were to play notes on the keyboard, either there or here, I'm getting sound already. It almost seems too simple. Okay, I have an oscillator, I have an envelope generator controlling an amplifier, and I've got an output, so I can change things. Slower attack, longer release. It's working how I'd expect, but
Sure.
Why is it even working? One idea that we had to minimize the number of chords you're looking at all the time are these little icons. We're calling them pre-chords. Like, it's already got a patch cord wirelessly connected, because most of the time you want the envelope to respond to the keyboard signal without having to patch it up every single time. So now if you drag it in, it just works.
Yep.
Same thing with pitch on the oscillator. You just want it to work instead of having a cable going into every single oscillator and using up a port.
Right.
So gestures beyond that, I mean, we have these bread and butter oscillators, but we've put some controls on each of them to very easily and quickly change the sound in a slightly non-traditional way. So get something a little bit different and unique. On top of all these pitch things, one thing that's interesting, every signal in the grid is, number one, 4 times your sample rate. So if you're at 96K, now we're talking 380 something internally, but they're also stereo.
Right.
Because it doesn't cost us more on the math, so it's ready if you want it. If I stereo detune, I can go out of tune, or I can just say, well, but do the opposite amount on the left and right channel.
Nice.
So I'm immediately dealing with something there already. A couple quick gestures. I've got some settings on here. If I were to pick a different oscillator and simply drag it on top, it's replaced it, it's kept my connections, it's even kept my parameters that it sees are continuous. I can even just hold down a note, add modules, and I keep getting sound, so I can just work on sound design. So, for example, maybe I'd rather try the quantizer after the filter. Okay, I can just drag it over here. Chords are made for me already. Even if I delete a module, it'll replace it with the cables in place, because now you're just focusing on sound instead of saying, where did my audio go?
Right, fantastic.
Yeah.
Great.
So, it's a little bit about Bitwig and what we're up to now.
Great, I appreciate it, Dave. It's fantastic.
Pleasure. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you. I'm with Joe from Raleigh. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm excellent. Good to see you. A Lewisham man, but apparently not a Millwall supporter.
No,
a Tottenham
never.
supporter.
Tottenham all the
And
way.
he's very happy because it's an all-English Champions League final.
Absolutely, yeah.
God bless it.
Can't wait. Can't wait. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Those of you, I'm sure you haven't escaped knowing about Raleigh, even if it's not not even a keyboard player. It's basically because look at this. It is insane how it feels.
So what you're looking at here is I would say probably our flagship Seaboard with some of our software that is included with the Seaboard. So this is the Seaboard RISE 49, released about 4 years ago now. It's the most expressive MIDI keyboard on the planet, bar none.
Right.
So you can do things on this keyboard that you cannot do on any other keyboard that's ever been made. So we can do things like, if you look at the surface of the keys here, you can actually push into the keys themselves to increase the volume of the patch.
Totally touch sensitive. Amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's using a new type of it's using MIDI in a new way. So basically, you can now have individual MIDI control on every single note that you play. So, for example, you could have a note. You could have some chords held down there, and then do a kind of a swell of a sound there.
Yeah, it's great.
The keys will also allow you to do pitch bends independently of each other. So again, holding a chord here.
Oh, I love that glissando there. Oh yeah. That's wonderful. I hope it comes through our little microphones.
I hope so.
But there's some amazing demos I've seen online.
Yeah.
For some reason I felt like this was out for so much longer than it really was, because it really made a big splash when it came out.
Absolutely. Well, we had our first product called the Seaboard Grand.
Yeah.
Technically, that was our second product. We made a Seaboard, what we call limited edition version. We made 88 of those.
Yeah.
This was 2009. We made 88 of them. They had 88 keys. They cost £8,888. So this was like 10 years ago. That was what you'd pay to get this kind of technology.
Right.
Then we released the Seaboard Grand. That was a few years later. So that had Equator built in. So the sounds that you're listening to now came from the instrument itself.
Yeah.
But crucially, it didn't have that slide feature that I just did there. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Rise 49 came out after that, and since then, yeah, it's completely revolutionized the way musicians are making music, the way producers are producing music, and even live players. Having this out on stage is an incredible experience. Yeah.
How are you finding Superbooth?
I love it.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It's pretty good, pretty good. I'm more of a keys player than a synth guy, so
Right.
I'm in perfect zone here with Roley here, and I've got Nord on the other side of the room.
Ah, yeah.
Go anywhere else, and I'm like, I don't know what these buttons and switches do, but it's incredible to have this amount of technology under one roof.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Plus, it's in Berlin, which is an insane city. It's amazing. It's great to meet you.
Good to meet you too, man.
Thank you.
Take care.
Hey, everybody. I'm with Colin of Eventide. How are you?
Good. Good to meet you. How are you doing?
I'm good, and I'm very excited because I just got shipped this like a day before we left to go to Berlin. It is the H9000, so I haven't used it yet.
Okay.
So can you give me a little precursor and tell me a little bit about it?
Absolutely. H9000 has up to 16 effects that you can run simultaneously. That's with 4 effects chains that can each run 4 effects. It's because there's basically 4 quad ARM processors under the hood here, dedicated 1 per effects chain. And it's pretty much drag and drop. You can say, for instance, I want to put a tremolo over. I'm going to search it up, and I can see it's right there. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to move it over this selection here. You can route things in series or in parallel.
Great.
Inputs and outputs, you can select up here and down here, and then it'll work like a hardware insert inside of your DAW. Inside of the H9000, you have I think somewhere close to 2,000 different algorithms that you can load out, each with their own description, so you can always tell what you're looking at.
Yep, fantastic.
It's got everything from reverbs, delays, and searchable filters up here at the top.
There's the harmonizer, what it's very famous for.
Yep,
Eventide.
exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you can search that way too. Just click and then see all of those different options.
Fantastic.
There. And you can save effects chains individually. You can save your entire session.
Yep.
So if you have presets that you want to group together and use for later use, then you can do it that way. And you can save them also to a flash key, and on the H9000, load them and then take them with you to the studio or wherever else. If there's another H9000 there, load up your session that way. This is Emo. It's the controller app, and it works as a standalone app, and it also works as a plugin inside of your DAW. So whenever you don't even have to save through Emo. You can just save your session.
Great.
And then when you reopen Pro Tools or you reopen whatever DAW you're working in, all of those parameters will be recalled on the 9000.
Great. That's just fantastic.
And there's expansion panels in the back, which is kind of our way of future-proofing it, so that when people are using different connections, we can come out with a panel, you just pop it in the back, and then you can control it that way.
Yeah, really nice. And, when you make classic things, like we were talking about earlier, the 3000, etc., they're never going to go away
Right.
if we do it right. So that's a good idea.
Yeah, hope that's our hope. Our goal.
Well, thank you, Colin. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm with Gregor from PreSonus. How are you?
Hi, man. Warren, good to meet you.
Good to meet you too. So we have a lot of our users are Studio One users, and I personally don't use Studio One, but we have some of our members have done videos for us in the past. David Mood, in particular, who does amazing Studio One videos. And he's the one that's always like pushing me, you've got to know more, you've got to know more. So here we are at Superbooth 2019.
Absolutely.
To learn more. So what can you tell us about, I don't know, give me the idiot version, but also I know, which is, but also I know there's some new stuff that you want to talk about, which I'm excited to know about as well.
Right. So I know that you're a Pro Tools user yourself, I think.
I am
so
a Pro Tools user.
You might be quite interested into the entire audio side of things. And it's hard to come up with something that Studio One does in editing that you couldn't do with Pro Tools. But I think we do it with less steps, basically.
Okay, good.
Just a faster workflow from my point of view. Actually, I used Cubase for 10 years before I switched over to Studio One. I started, being a freelancer, doing productions, and I was competing with other guys who were way longer in the business and didn't charge too much of a fee. So if I would have charged the same fee, people would have always chosen for these guys because they had all these references that I didn't have yet. But I still had to make a living wage. So I thought, okay, the only way I can charge 25% less is if I'm working 25% faster. And that's really what Studio One enabled me to do. And it's, for me, all about workflow and customization. So there's so many things that I should or could show you, but one of the great improvements for me when switching from Cubase was how to use macros. So for instance, everybody knows copying an event with Command C and Command V, but it's not really like it would normally be in a Finder window or something where you have to copy the source file and then go to your destination and paste it. You're already where you want to be with your locator. So why do you always press Command C first and then Command V, when you could just press one button instead?
Nice.
Sometimes you might have to go across different projects, so I can just copy this part here, open a new song, paste it. That's possible. Sometimes I have to do that. We can switch seamlessly between songs, as you can see. But often you just want to go here and you need something from this section right there. So you just copy it either with the hotkey that I just showed or with your mouse. And you can customize that completely to your own needs.
Okay.
So with a little bit of thinking and consideration, what do I really need in my workflow? You can come up with an amazingly fast workflow. Same is true for zooming. I love zooming in Studio One. So when I'm lost somewhere here and let's say I want to work on this section instead of this one. And I'm way out. First I would have to go here and then zoom in and then set a different loop range, But what I could also do is just do all of that in one command. Just set the zoom and then go back if I want to. Like
nice.
So it just...
Now, are these inbuilt or these customized ones that you're building yourself?
Yeah, but also we have these...
But they're already built in, these shortcuts?
Exactly, most of them are built in and you can share them really easily because all of these commands that I'm firing off, they're basically in this toolbar here. And that's just one little file that's maybe 2 kilobytes large. It's a .macro page. You just import that into Studio One. You have all the same buttons, so people can really expand what's already there. I'm just using stock stuff, but it goes so far. You could even just add an EQ with just the touch of a button. You could have your favorite low cut on a numpad, because you have or like a gain trim. You have to have that very, very often. So you could just select multiple channels and just put in, I don't know, a gain trim -6 dB on your first insert. And all these things, you can of course also do them in Pro Tools, but it's just a bit more elegant to me in a very nice and streamlined interface.
Nice. I mean, I have not played with it at all, so I do like the general layout. The fact that the audio is one solid color, I think, makes quick, easy decisions making when you're cutting and pasting huge sections. What about like MIDI editing versus audio editing? What are the differences? Right. I think the question I want to ask is one of the things that in Pro Tools, and I grew up with Pro Tools, I've been using it for 20 years.
Yeah.
The thing about Pro Tools that always seems a little counterintuitive is that I have different tools and different shortcuts for audio and MIDI, which doesn't make sense to me. I should be able to copy and paste information the same way. Like if I want to quantize audio, it's going to be Control 0, but it's not Control 0 for quantizing MIDI. You know what I mean? It's like silly little things like that. So my question is can you use all the same shortcuts and same editing tools in both MIDI and audio?
The simplified answer would be yes.
Okay, good.
But there's a couple of deprivations, because sometimes we work with pattern. So that's two different ways you could edit your MIDI. Either I could have like a classic piano roll editor where I just put in my MIDI notes, but I could also have a pattern like this, and it's basically just looping this section that you see here. So just to show what I mean, let's say I'm just having like a 4/4 kick drum in here.
Yep.
If I drag out this event, it would always loop this pattern, right? Here, I don't really need to quantize anything because it's a step sequence that is always kind of quantized.
Yep.
So here the typical quantize command wouldn't work. It wouldn't work in the same way like it would for audio. And also similarly,
I think it's just for written. If I'm playing something in performing, and it looks like and it's got velocity information, etc., and panning, I want to be able to treat that the same way I would as audio.
I see what you mean. Yeah, and you absolutely can. In that way,
good.
In that case, you would just hit Q, and that would quantize both audio and MIDI the exact
Q for quantize. That's useful. I like that.
It's quite intuitive. What is it on Pro Tools?
Well, it's either Apple 0 or Apple O.
Okay.
O for quantize,
Close enough.
O quantize. O quantize. All right.
I love it. Okay, so let's just take a little audio file here and show you another little difference between MIDI and audio in Studio One. So we have the multi-tool. You might be familiar with that in Cubase, in Pro Tools as well. And in the top half, it's going to be like this cross here. And the bottom section is just a pointer. So when you're here in this section, you can use it to select the range. Maybe let me just make a different color so you can see it a bit more clearly here. You can just select the range, and I could either cut that section, or I could just move the content of it, or I could just cut the section and then move the content within it like that.
It's a nice idea.
These things aren't exactly the same in MIDI, of course.
Right, I understand.
Maybe you have two notes or something, and then you want to move their start and end point simultaneously.
I see, yeah.
In MIDI you have stuff like this where you just select the end note, and you can just align the legato like that. That doesn't really make any sense in the audio domain, so these kind of commands would be different, I would say.
But they're cool tools. So, questions. Audio editing. Zoom in. Let me have a look at the audio editing capabilities. Because if there's one thing everybody always loves about Pro Tools, it is the audio editing capabilities. So, I just, again, like I said, treat me like an idiot.
Maybe I could just bounce the track here.
Sure.
Just a little section where it's just a kick drum, like this, and just make your audio clip from that. So let's say you get like a live drum performance. Okay.
I love that you just did that at a click of a button. That was actually quite impressive.
And let's say they're all a little bit different. They all have different offsets. Like so, it's like a live performance. It's never played exactly on the grid.
Yeah.
How would you go about normally in
I would tap to transient, find the front of the transient, cut it.
I see.
And then I would highlight it and then quantize it.
Right. In Studio One, you could just go ahead and do this.
So what's it doing there that's different?
I just show you with the undos. Basically, it cut at every transient. It quantized that to the grid. After cutting, first it was basically the bend marker detection. Then it split. Then it moved those containers to the next grid spot. Then it closed the gaps so there wouldn't be any audible clicks. Applies a super tiny auto fade of 2 milliseconds and bounces it as one file. But you didn't mess with the phase. You didn't warp anything. It's still the exact same phase, as you can see. It's really just quantized now. So that's one of the ways you can work really well with audio in Studio One. One of the things that are the most impressive to me are if you have like an idea and it doesn't really fit in your current track, then I could just grab that file, put it into my ideas folder.
Yeah.
What happens now is I have it stored in my browser. I could pre-listen it. It would actually play back according to my BPM here. So if I was in a new project,
so you can audition it at the tempo.
Audition it at the tempo that you're currently at.
Currently, yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
So maybe I like this at 112 BPM. You can just drag it in, and not only have you just recalled the entire sequence, but you also recalled the instrument, and not only that, but also the entire output routings.
Nice.
And even inserts if you have them.
Right, that's great. Well, we have Tim Chandler here from Nectar.
That's right.
How are you?
At the Personas booth. Yeah.
At the Personas booth, and we are going to talk about Nectar's integration.
Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, this is what is new. We're the first company and the only company to integrate a keyboard controller intimately with Studio One. And what I mean by that is it's not MCU, which might not mean anything to you guys, but what MCU is basically a door link up that most companies use on their controllers like this. It's not for a keyboard controller, it's for a mixer. So you get basic mixer parameters and you get basic transport, okay, which we get, but then we give you parameter names, feedback, we give you pans, sends, macro controls, which are unique to Studio One, and we give you full instrument and plugin control as well. All with parameter feedback. So I'll quickly take you through what that integration is. You're probably going to want to come in, because all the clever stuff is right here in front of you on the display. So as a keyboard controller, you generally want to be working on the track that's selected. You can see that I can change my tracks here. And when I select a track, this is always going to be, in mixer mode, this is always my selected tracks volume. So not always master. If I was using an MCU controller, this is always the master. How often do you honestly tweak the master volume when you're recording something? Not that often, right?
Not that often, no.
But you can still get to master by holding down this modifier button, and that's now your master volume controller on the mixer, over there. There you go. And then you've got your bank of 8 there. Now you'll notice that if I move this parameter, nothing changes until I catch up with the position in the software. So you don't get a jump in audio when you suddenly move your fader. Some people like that, some people don't. We call it soft takeover. But if you hold shift and move a fader, then you can see that it will immediately jump, if you wanted to. So you've got a choice. And you can also use the modifier to toggle soft takeover on or off as well. So you can choose whether you want it on or off at any time. Like I said, these ones are going to be pans. They're also going to control your sends. If there are any on the selected track, it's always about the selected track as a keyboard player that you're playing. And then the macro controls are controls that they're unique to Studio One. I don't think there's any maps at this point. But they're like smart controls in Logic. Basically, you map them to any parameter on that track. They're unique to that track. And again, you can access them totally from the panorama.
Nice.
So going on to the instruments, just go to a useful instrument to control. So as I select the instrument, all of the instruments in Studio One are pre-mapped. So you can see you've got cutoff, resonance, drive, lots of useful parameters. Not just 8 controls like a lot of MIDI controllers, but you've also got envelopes mapped on the faders, and then the instrument's volume control is on fader 9. This is a standard mapping we do. You can change that yourself by going into the instrument and then move the control. Let's go back to the instrument page. So I don't want to have my tune there. I want to have, let's say, the key. And I just hit the setup button to access the learn, and then that assigns my parameter there. Now, once I've made that assignment, that stays there for every single track that this instrument's on. You do it once, you never have to do it again. So once you've made your instrument mapped, that's it. A really cool feature that's great for workflow is this E1 Auto button. Now this controls the selected parameter. This up here in Studio One is the selected parameter name and the value. If I press the focus button, there it is right there in front of you. So that information is now in big font on your display in front of you, rather than being in a little font in the top corner that no one really looks at anymore. So if I go to a different parameter, you can see that it gives me the values there.
Oh, that's a nice idea.
And not only that, you've got control of that parameter straight away. And I can go to different windows, different plugins, and all of this can obviously be recorded as automation as well. So it's a really quick, well, it's a lightning fast workflow.
So you can assign all those features, which is on a massive screen, is like you're pointing out, it's right up there in the top left-hand corner, but now you can see it.
Now you can see it, but not only that, you can control the parameters that's there
from there. Yeah, very nice.
You know, and if you look at how, if we go to a pan pot, you can get the fine control, 19, 20, 21, 22, or you can get the big sweeps as well. So it's acceleration based, you know, really nice way to work.
Very nice.
Yeah, so there you go.
God bless it.
Yeah. It's all about making it more musical, you know, bringing hardware and software together. Like I said, Nectar controllers are the only ones that integrate to software on this level. It's not just Studio One. We'll show Studio One here because it's brand new. It's free for every Nectar user. It's like months and months of work that we give away for free, you know, for all of our existing customers. So if you're a registered Nectar user for Studio One, this will appear in your account on May the 21st this year.
Nice.
Not a long way.
And
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's free for everyone to use. And it's obviously Studio One. We also got Logic. We've got Cubase done in the same way. Bitwig Studio and Reason. You know, virtually across the board. We're only missing a couple of the major ones.
The ones that you still use Huey.
Well, we use Mackie Control where we can't do this level of intimate integration, if you like. But you know, it's not great. It's not the best solution for a keyboard player at the end of the day. And you know, as a keyboard,
quite old technology these days.
Oh yeah. We're talking a long time ago, and people are still, you know, relying on that. And, you know, when we're different. We put the work in, and we do the grunt work, and make sure that you don't have to. You know, as a musician, you don't want to be doing all of that stuff. You want to be just playing and recording and tracking up and down, setting up loop points, undo, click, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
No worries, guys. Thanks.
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you.
I'm happy to see you here on the fair.
Klaus Fischer, ladies and gentlemen, from Audios.
I'm happy to demonstrate the Audios here on the fair. And when I was a student, I was really excited to build that machine. I wanted to build a machine that lets sound move in the room. And I started in a crazy way to invent it. And there went more and more, I got more and more ideas. And finally I went on the fair in 1978 on the Tonmeister-Tagung. Yeah. It's a big famous fair here in Germany where all producers meet once a year. And I presented the prototype of that, hand soldered, but it was looking in the same way. And it was the first machine that could sample. At that time, the word sampling didn't exist in the musical world. I named it hold, to keep the sound, to freeze it. Therefore, there is not the word sampling, but the word hold. But it was the first sampler that was able to take the sound of 400 milliseconds and to play it on these knobs here, on those push buttons.
Fantastic.
Being transposed by maximum 1 octave down or 1 octave high.
Nice.
Yeah. So the machine has 3 parts. The one is the sampling, the stereo sampling. This is channel 1 and this is channel 2, and we have 4 presets for the pitch. I can adjust for the left channel, for example, a pitch of 5 halftones, and on the right channel the pitch of 1 octave, for example, and I can have this pre-selects for 4 different settings. It was also absolutely new at that time. I have a sequencer and an LFO, and the LFO is able to trigger the sequencer in different ways. It can run up, or it can run backward, or it can run by random, or it can run up and only 3 or 2. So the sequencer does different things. Either we have the real-time transposition, you sing and you hear the 5 halftones up and 3 halftones down on different channels. And then you can start the sequencer and then you get a melody. Yeah? So you can have a constant pitch shifting or a pitch shifting being changed by the sequencer. And,
nice.
And the pitch shifting is very nice. It has a very short latency time and it is very clear, very clean. So you have different ways to modulate your sound. This is the first option, the transposition in combination with the sampling. Then we have a delay, a stereo delay, and also the delay can be modulated by the LFO. Yeah?
Nice.
And the delay can be adjusted to very short delays of 100 microseconds to get a comp filter, yeah? Right. And a maximum delay of 800. Right. And during the change of the delay, we don't have a click or plop. It is a Doppler effect. It is like a tape machine delay where the head is moved. So you get, during the turning, you get a pitch shifting. And this is for most people, it is very nice to have the pitch shifting instead of a click of digital machines. It is a simulation of the Doppler effect when you change the delay time. So you can modulate the delay also by the LFO, and all these combinations make the machine, even today, very interesting. Producers say that they save time. There are many producers in Germany, they say, oh, I don't want to work with a mouse, I want to have a machine. And when I see the producer working with, some are dancing with the machine. They use the pitch transposing and the delay and they make incredible sounds with it. Yeah?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
How long is the sample time now?
The what, please?
How long is the sample time now?
The sample time?
Yeah.
800 milliseconds.
800 milliseconds, right.
I can change it, but the maximum is 800.
Great. Max, how are you?
Hey, good to meet you.
Good to see
great.
you.
Yeah.
You having fun?
Definitely. Great show here.
Yeah, Superbooth 2019. Now, we've been talking off camera about, just Berlin and this sort of integration between the modular synth world, and you were saying UAD is sort of embracing it with
everyone needs to record.
Yep.
So it's definitely interesting here. I mean, this is a synth trade show, first of all, of course, but we want to show that recording is always important, and of course we want to show that recording your audio with our interfaces is possible with UAD plugins in real time, which is definitely important for everyone. Sure. Latency, no one wants to deal with latency, whether you're recording guitar, vocals, bass, drums, or if it's a synthesizer. Everyone wants to record, everyone wants to have a good sound, a great sound with plugins, and this is what's possible with our interfaces. So this.
Now, what about this? You were talking about marrying the worlds of synthesizer with the DAW.
So, I mean, first of all, you want to record that sound into the DAW, but our interfaces have a feature which is DC coupled outputs that actually allow you to send a control voltage signal to the lineouts and send that CV signal to your modular synth. So you can actually control parts of your synth from your DAW.
Wonderful.
So in this case, we're using Ableton Live. They just released, or they announced, a CV Tools pack that we're using for this. And I mean, I can show you this just a little bit before I turn on the synthesizer. I'm just going to show you what we have here. So they have these plugins here. This, for example, is an LFO, and all you have to do is select the line out that you're using here for that specific signal. So in this case, I'm sending the LFO signal, the control voltage signal, to the line out of this Apollo X8. And all you need is a 6.3 millimeter jack to a 3.5 millimeter jack cable, so you can actually plug that into the line output and into your synthesizer here. So what I'm going to do here is control the cutoff frequency of this filter with that LFO. So I'm just going to go ahead and do something here so that you can actually hear this. And now, of course, if I don't have that here, my cutoff is just fixed. Right. So, of course, I can move it here, but let's not have my hand do that. So that's what the LFO here in this case is for. So I can just completely control this from my DAW. I have the rate here, if I want it faster, slower, how deep that actually affects the cutoff frequency, and so on. I have different waveforms here that I can choose for this, depending on what my signal is. Yeah. And so I can, of course, MIDI map that here if I want to have a controller do this. I can automat it in my DAW, but the important thing is you need an audio interface that has the DC coupled outputs. If you don't have that, that CV signal is just going to go nowhere. And so this is what we want to show here, and it's just a cool way to actually, well, combine worlds. You have the analog world here. You're getting that signal into the Apollo. You can control parts of your synthesizer from live. And of course, I mean, this is what I talked about in the start here. We could use UAD plugins on the way in. So if I want this to be a super fat synth bass sound, nice. Just turning up that.
Speakers, look at that.
The speakers are. It's too loud here.
That low end's getting crazy.
But you can definitely see the low end. Now I can use.
I can feel it.
I have the best of all worlds here. Sure. I have my synthesizer that I can play, that I can actually tweak here. I have something to put my hands on. I have an awesome analog signal, but I'm enhancing it with UAD plugins.
Right. Fantastic.
Definitely. So, poor speakers, let me turn that off.
Excellent.
So, the most recent product that we have here at Superbooth is our Apollo X series range of interfaces. So, we've completely remodeled our rack mount interfaces. So, we have the X8, the X8P, and X16, which directly replace the Apollo 8, 8P, and 16. We also added the Apollo X6. So this is an interface that only has 2 microphone preamps, but in rack format. So more line ins, more line outs for all those people who don't need as many microphone inputs. So depending on what your needs are in the studio, if you need 2 mic ins, 4, 8, or a bunch of line inputs and line outputs, if you have a lot of outboard gear, you can just configure your setup to your personal needs. So we have brand new conversion in this, new clocking. They're all hexacore throughout the range, so you cannot choose duo or quad or anything like that anymore. It's just you get a hexacore, and that's a good thing. We have the Apollo Twin here. It's not new, but it's always interesting to have a twin, especially in a multi-unit setup, because it just acts as the monitor controller. You have a device on your desktop. Sometimes you have these stored away in a rack somewhere, so you can't necessarily reach them, but you have a headphone output and 2 mic inputs, a couple of line outputs, and monitor control is here. And of course, you can just take it on the road and work on the road if you do. And while we're talking about on the road, we have our Aero interface over there as well. Our smallest interface, it's 2 in and 4 out, so monitor outputs and headphone outputs. You can just kind of see if I can turn it back on here.
Yep, see it.
So 2 mic line inputs, of course, a high impedance input on the front for guitars.
What are these retailing at?
Those should be around 500 euros.
Right,
so it's bus powered Thunderbolt 3, so no power supply on these. And it has a single DSP on board. So this is basically the musician's interface for on the road. If you want to record through an awesome preamp, for example, you want to load a Neve 1073 on here. Let me see. Let's just load that here for a second. So you want to record your vocals on the road with a Neve 1073. You put some compression on there, maybe an LA2A 1176, something like that. Need reverb just to feel comfortable while recording.
Sure.
You can do that all with this, bus powered from your Thunderbolt 3 equipped computer.
Wonderful.
And it can still be daisy chained with the Apollos if you like. If you have the Thunderbolt 3 equipped Apollos, can be. So it's part of the whole system.
Wonderful. Hello everybody, hope you're doing marvellously well. I'm with Ronan from Eve. How are you?
Not too bad. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you. Last time I saw you was at NAMM in
Yes, that's right.
January, and it was.
Yes, that's right.
It wasn't. It was quite cold. NAMM, I think it was like a.
Yeah, it was so.
LA. It was when LA had that raininess.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I remember.
Yeah. And now we're back in Berlin, and it's beautiful. So I have been at Hansa for 3 days working, and I've been using these. And they sounded fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Yep. And they were the only monitors we had, except for the big mains. And so I got to really experience them. Had a great time. Let's not start with those though. Let's start all the way down at these. Let's start small and go up.
The small babies.
So what can you tell me? Because I see that these also share the same little mini ribbon tweeters.
Yes, this is also an air motion transformer, the smallest one what we have in our line. The 203 is a little bit different from the other speakers. So normally you have a signal unit and not a master-slave system or left and right thing. So here with this SC203, it's very small, and the idea was to have a product what you can put on a desk for video post-production or small environment. Yep. And also, I wanted to have a USB interface built-in.
I see.
So it's on the active side.
Yeah.
So you see here the USB input.
Yeah.
And if you want to have USB, then you immediately have to build a master-slave system, because USB, you cannot put 2 USB cables in a computer to have a share to put to left and right. So that's simply. We have a USB input here, and we have a passive diaphragm. This is also different from the bigger speakers. So passive radiator enhances the lower frequencies without port noise.
Right.
Another thing is, if you put a speaker on a desk, then normally you would have it angled up, and you can have angled up in this way, and also you can do it in opposite direction, and then you have one more.
That's a nice idea.
Yes.
I like that.
And even this is not enough sometimes to adjust the speaker to the listening situation what you have, because if you put a speaker on a desk, then you have a wide low-mid increase.
Sure.
And this needs to be fixed by another frequency adjustment. And here in this speaker, you can say you have this position. Where you can change the frequency response, stick to the position what you want to meet, and so you can say here are built in 3 different adjustments of a speaker.
Right.
So, and this is needed for making accuracy in the sound reproduction.
Great.
When you put a speaker on the desk.
That's nice. Yeah, these are a great size, and you know, in my environment, because I have a console, I have my monitor, my screen here.
Yes.
And then I turn over here. So I have speakers this small.
Yes.
Because if we're going to be working there, most of the time if I'm sitting in front of my screen, I'm editing.
Yes.
And I want to check like edits I'm doing and doing detailed automation. And I find small speakers are really good when I'm just trying to hear automation, buzzes and clicks, you know, digital pops, and corrections.
If you have a small room and a very short listening distance, then you can work also with these small speakers. And we had some cases where some sound engineers did mastering just for fun in a hotel room, and then send it to the company, and they said it's okay, no more work is needed. So it is meant as a real studio monitor, and not as a cheap speaker put on a side.
Do you know what these retail?
It's $4.99
for the pair.
For the pair, yeah.
Oh, that's good. That euros or dollars?
Euros.
Euros, so like 550-ish.
Not at the moment.
Yeah.
At the moment.
But yeah, that's fantastic. And then the next size up.
Yeah, we have one in between. It's a 204, but it's not here on display. Perhaps I can explain the number system what we have.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
SC is meant for silver cone.
Yeah.
And then you see the 3 digits, and that means if in this it's a 5-inch speaker, and you see here 205.
Yeah.
And this means it's a 2-way system with a 5-inch woofer. And you see here
One thing that's important to mention, I did mention briefly at the beginning, but I think is the fact that these all share the same ribbon tweeters, even the smallest ones, the cheapest ones, because these are pretty renowned, these tweeters. People love the way these sound.
Yes. You have to be careful with the tweeter adjustment. For some people, they think it's a little bit too bright, but it's not really brightness of the speaker. It's more resolution. Yeah. And you have to get into it. Yeah, but definitely. You will like it immediately. So the resolution of these tweeters is amazing.
Yep, absolutely. So this is next size up. This is the 5s.
Yes.
And we've got a volume control on the front.
Yes. I really wanted to have a user interface in the front. So and that was the reason to have this knob. And you can adjust the volume just. With turning the knob is not a sensation, but you also can enter a second mode, and then you can adjust the shelving filters or desktop notch and the behavior. Right. It is like an analog studio monitor, so it is immediately audible if you do some changes, and now you see after some seconds it releases to the normal, it's called volume mode. So, but if you change anything, it is immediately audible and it is stored. So there's a DSP inside, but you don't have to put any enter button or something like that. Another interesting feature, you can disconnect the mains in every case. And if you do it, I just remove the IC connector. And if you connect the speaker again, then you see that the volume increases slowly.
Oh, okay.
So this is called secure fade-in, so that you can react to a master fader if there's a loud signal is coming to the speaker. Very helpful to protect your ears.
Great idea. Okay, next size up, we've got the 7, so again, 2-way and 7-inch speaker.
Yes, 7-inch. The differences between these speakers is mainly maximum SPL and the range of the bass. So, of course, with a bigger woofer, you can have lower cutoff frequency of these systems.
What, off the top of your head, how low do these all go?
This is around around 48, around 40. And 35, something like that.
Okay, great. So even the smallest one, you're going to be able to mix, good bass and kick drums.
Yes,
great.
And this is also depending from the room. Of course, if you have a long listening distance and a large room, then it makes no sense with such a small speaker. Yeah. But if you have a large room but a very close listening or short listening distance, then you can use also smaller speakers. So I don't like the idea to say a small speaker only for small rooms and a big speaker.
I totally agree. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, but for certain amount of bass, you just need a larger diaphragm. It's like normal instruments. A double bass needs this size because of the low frequencies. Otherwise, on a violin, you cannot get these low frequencies. It's impossible.
I've found, for me personally, 90% of my situations, an 8-inch is kind of universally works in most rooms that I work in. So this size makes perfect sense to me. But like we've been saying, we've been using these, which is the 4-way with the 2 8-inch drivers.
Yes.
And that's been very impressive. We really, really loved that. And these were the only speakers we used at Hansa for 3 days. So, and we were able to work both tracking and mixing on them.
Yeah.
Really wonderful. So before we go to that for any more details, so this is the 3-way 7. This is a great size.
We also have a 305.
Oh, you have a 305 as well.
With 2 5-inch woofers. And this is meant for meter bridges where you don't want to have such high listening position or for center application if you want to have a multi-channel system. But this is, for these speakers, important to understand that both woofers are not running in the same frequency response or in the same frequency range, because then you would have directivity problems. And it's better to see these speakers as 2-way systems with an additional woofer on the side. So you see here the 207 and here the 307, and you could play the 207 on front and then say, oh, there's one woofer more. So
what's the split on the frequencies between the two?
It's around 200 to 300 hertz. So one woofer fades out at 200, 300 hertz, and the other woofer is running to the mid ranges to the crossover point of the tweeter. And of course, in this, if you place the speaker horizontally, then you need a left and a right speaker. Sure. And sales channels hate to sell left and right speakers because then customer get two right versions and or the other one two left versions. And on the backside you have a dip switch where you just can change the position of the woofers.
Okay, that's smart. Which also answers my next question, would be why the same speakers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Another feature when we are talking about the backside, another feature is you can control the volume and you can control the shelving filters for high frequencies, low frequencies, also desktop notch. But this is accessible from the front. And if you have a studio with a lot of users and you need to be sure that the settings are not changed. Right. And you have also on the backside two dip switches where you can lock independently from each other the filter settings and the volume settings. So that means you adjust your speaker to a certain frequency response, then you can lock the frequency or the filter settings, but you can allow to change the volume. Or you can lock both and then you have a fixed setting.
Great. Like I said, we've been using these for 3 days, so we got to know them really, really well, the 8s. I was impressed with this. Why did you go for for 4?
This is, fortunately, it's quite easy to answer, because if you have a speaker like this, with a vertical orientation between the woofer and the tweeter, then you have, of course, the tweeter is for the high frequencies, the woofer is for mid and low frequencies. Sure. So if you have normal music, then the sound source is varying between woofer and tweeter.
Right.
High frequencies are emitted by the tweeter, low frequencies.
Yes. Where do these cross over?
It's here around 2.4 kilohertz.
Okay.
Yeah. So the sound source is not ideal located because different frequency ranges of the different drivers.
Sure.
So if you have this model, or if you lay down to the side this speaker, then you have suddenly this moving sound source in a horizontal direction. Okay. And this is not ideal because your stereo image can be affected by that.
Okay.
Yeah. Both speakers have this variation, and then it could be difficult.
So is this still crosses over at 2.4?
Yep.
And then this is handling 200 and below. So
both are handling the bass, and only this fades out, and this second woofer goes to the mid frequencies.
Oh, so they both go from 200, but it's
no. Both go from, in this case, from 35 hertz to, let's say, 300 round,
right?
And then one woofer fades out, and the other woofer is only making. I
suppose that makes sense because the super low frequencies are very hard to get phase cancellation because they're much larger wave. Okay.
So and but we have here this problem with the horizontally located sound source, and the way out is to add another mid-range unit, a dedicated mid-range woofer. Both woofer are running in the same frequency range. Okay. And then this mid-range unit takes over at 300-400 hertz. Okay. And then this is the same crossover point around 2.8 kilohertz in this for this model. And then you have these for the most important stereo or for most important frequency range for stereo image is mid and high frequencies. Sure. In the bass, you don't have these a lot of stereo signals. So and then the sound source is now varying in the vertical direction. So that's
great.
Yeah. Yep. And this speaker has another feature. You can turn this tweeter mid-range plate by 90 degrees, so you can decide by yourself whether you want to have a horizontal version or a vertical version. Just remove 4 screws, pull it, and then it's easy done. Yeah. Some people want to have a vertical direction. Yeah.
Depending on whether they have a meter bridge or not. This would be great on a meter bridge. It's wonderful. Well, I really enjoyed working on these. I felt like the high end, this was very smooth, so it wasn't fatiguing. Because we were in there 14, 15 hours a day. I mean, we were getting there at 9 and leaving at 11. I think one day we went 12:30. So we were working for long days. And they weren't fatiguing, which is, that's a big deal for me. You know, I don't want to be coming at the end of the day like worn out, not only physically tired, but my ears tired. And so, good sign. And obviously these tweeters are superb, which is hence why you use them on everything. And I'm impressed that you use them on your cheapest one as well. But yeah, really great sounding monitors.
And it is what you mentioned is right, and also the complete frequency range should be very balanced. Yeah. And this sounds quite easy and normal, but there is so far a lot of detail adjustments than needed, and to have a speaker with a flat frequency response is quite easy to do.
Sure.
We have a large anechoic chamber, so we can do all these measurements. But right sounding speaker, it's complete different ball games. So you have to go in different rooms, listening, do a lot of listening sessions with different kind of music. And in the end, I did a lot of listening with really classical music, with big orchestra pieces, had the scores on my knees, was reading how are the voices balanced, and then you can do these small treatments, and then in the end you have a nice sounding speaker.
Well, yes, there's science, but then there's also, music.
Yeah, that's true.
Science can...
And this is a wonderful combination.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the 12s.
Yeah.
So a three-way 12.
It's a three-way system.
This is substantial.
Yeah, it is quite heavy. Yeah, the woofer has a very big, strong magnet construction behind, so it's needed for the bass. And you see the big rubber surround. So
speaking of which, so are you building all your own drivers?
No, in this case, this is our own construction, and we build it in house.
So you build your own tweeters?
Yes.
Oh,
so
wow.
We sit there and folding, do the diaphragm folding, and so on.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And
in Germany, yes?
Yes.
Great.
And the driver development, we do the parameter adjustments, and we do some samplings, but the production, there are specialized company in the world who deliver then these drivers to us. Because all the magnet systems to build and to have the right magnetization, this is an extra job, and there are companies who do nothing else. Except producing drivers for customer, stick to customers.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So give me a little bit of characteristics. Who's your customer on this? Who do you think this is for? This is like a large playback in a big studio to blow away the band, big power.
It is. It is, of course, a thing of sound pressure level. These speaker can have much more, can deliver much more sound pressure level, but it is also a kind of effect of lowest frequency. And if you have a normal instrument, double bass, it is not so low. Or if you have a big church organ, the lowest is around 16 hertz. This is the lowest, but there are a few organs who can normally is 32 hertz. So in 32 hertz is to deliver 32 hertz is possible with this speaker, but then you have all these big film industries, and then you have these kind of infra noise. The Saurier is walking through the movie, then you need very low crossover or very low playing systems. And then for these kind of purposes, all meant.
Right.
Electronic music can also deliver much lower frequency. So it's
and hip hop with super low.
And this in combination with needed sound pressure level, then you need big speakers.
Right. And it's always good to have a pair of speakers to impress the client and the label and all of that kind of good stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so subwoofers.
Yeah.
So you have two options here.
Total we have 4 different models.
Oh, you do have 4?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and we have TS series. TS means thunderstorm.
Right.
And then you see 110. That means one channel, of course, is a subwoofer with a 10-inch woofer. And you have a stereo input in this subwoofer, and you have a stereo output, and you can go to the satellites and two knobs. The normal knob control, what you can do, volumes, filter settings, phase, this is one. And here it's illuminated. You can adjust the system volume. That means subwoofer plus satellites are adjusted with one knob. And then independently, of course, you can adjust the subwoofer level itself. And the subwoofer can be also remote controlled.
Nice.
And this is a nice feature. And of course, you can switch between, in this case, between satellites with subwoofer or pure satellites without any filtering. So you can immediately check what's going on. Is it is a subwoofer right balance or is...
Now the stereo input and output, does that mean that you're crossing over? So you can go into this crossover and where is that variable or is that fixed?
For the satellites is fixed to 80 Hertz. It's a kind of Dolby norm. And the subwoofer can be varied from 60 to 160 and then 300 Hertz. 300 Hertz means LFE.
Right.
For LFE, you need a long, wider bandwidth.
Okay, fantastic. Great. I see you have an SPL furnace down there.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah, SPL is really nice, nice gear, of course, and we know these guys also for a long time. And below we have our own switcher, so we for presentations is very nice. And
are those in production?
We have sold already, so it is interesting for shops. They need a simple solution without any audio electronic in between, just a switching device. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. And then for testing, I see you've got this set up for different speakers.
Yes. But of course, it's not our main product.
Right. Doesn't Bob Horn have these, the big ones?
That's true.
So I know these two, and these sound very impressive. I know he's been using them a lot. Well, thank you ever so much.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
It was wonderful.
Marvelous. So I'm sure there'll be a bunch of links and stuff and everything. Go check out the blog and, of course, leave any comments and questions below. Thank you. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're big, we're bad, and we are done. Superbooth, 3 days. After 3 days at Hansa, and tomorrow we're getting on a plane and going to Vienna. And then we're staying in Vienna for a day and a half, and then we'll come back to Berlin. And then we're leaving to go back to LA. So it's been a whistle stop. It's been an amazing time. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining us at Superbooth 2019.